Hello and welcome to this video. Today marks part 2 of my resin meets 3D printing infill kind of adventures. And thanks to a lovely lot of you and your guys' comments, I got the idea to make some Suncatchers with this. Now in the last one I made coasters, which means I left the bottom layer shell there, so there would be like a little protection from the resin leaking out. This time I'm going to remove bottom and top shell, and all I'm doing here in Prusa Slicer is I'm adding a shape, scaling it down, and then I go to the shell in tab thing, and I change the bottom and the top layer to 0. And that will make it that only the infill will be there will be no extra shell layers. And once I did that, I can slice this and it should just be a thicker outside frame. I purposefully made the outside layers a bit thicker just so we have a nice frame. Because when I hang this up as a Suncatcher, I think it would look better in my opinion to have a thicker frame. And it also adds a bit of rigidity, but again, you can do anything you want with this. It's very easy to play around with it in the slicer, and here you can see that we can actually see through, and we have the entire infill. Now it's still set on gyroid, so let me choose triangles, because that is what I'm going for with the first one of these Suncatchers. And I'm going quite large here. So I actually know the size of my print bed, so I went with the percentage of infill that would fit nicely with that. And then in the end, when I was happy with that, I just exported it and printed, and here you can see the outcome. Now, unlike last time actually, first of all, I designed this little bird on my iPad, just taking a picture of this grid and then just, trying to trace out the shapes. But the second thing that's different is also I'm using my 0.4mm nozzle here. Last time I was just wanting to do a quick experiment, so the prints looked a bit rougher because I used my 0.6mm nozzle. And also I got a lot of comments on improving the orange filament print. I sadly have to say all of these were great comments, but none of them were really helpful for the orange filament. The orange filament, even after putting it in my dry box for 4 days, just didn't work. It printed all wonky, it came out of the nozzle splotchy. I don't know if maybe the plastic got too hot while they produced it or something, but it also left a little more burning residue than a lot of other filaments that I have used before did. And I had the orange filament before from Prusa and it was totally fine, so I think I just got a faulty spool that just didn't want to print. Also, for those who commented on my first layer being uneven, I totally know that. My print bed is just so wonky after years of use that it has reset spots, deeper spots, so I will never get the first layer that's gonna be perfect, but in most cases it is perfect enough. Just when you have a solid layer and you're printing with a larger nozzle, it kind of becomes a bit more obvious, but that was totally fine with me. But as I said, in this case I'm actually using my 0.4mm nozzle, so the print looks way cleaner, and this is actually a final piece. The others were more experimental again. But yeah, for this one I went all in. I chose this dark green filament, and it's, I think, very beautiful for nature things. And then I designed this little robin, and for this I'm using UV resin and a toothpick. I would have loved to use a syringe with a thin needle, but I couldn't find my needle tips that I have for resin pouring. I have a lot of syringes and needle tips. I found the syringes, couldn't find the tips, of course. As always when you want to do a project and you search for things, I still have no clue where they are. I found one, but that's a bit thicker for a thicker syringe. I think that was more for shakers. But yeah, I think when you actually use a needle tool, it should be a bit more easy to get rid of all the air bubbles. I definitely struggled with that a little bit, even though I went and poured every single triangle separately with the toothpick, just having the tip of the toothpick carrying the resin and then slowly trying to get out every single air bubble at all. But in the end, it should have a kind of stained window effect. So I think the air bubbles, as long as they're not too large, will be fine. But yeah, all I did is I'm just using some UV resin pigments here and some translucent, like, I guess just alcohol inks and things like that, just to color this. And I want this to let enough light through so the colors shine through, since this is a sun catcher. So of course if I hang it up my window, I want like the light to pass through the colors. But I also tried to mix up some shadows and things like that, just a little bit. And yeah, I basically, what I did is I used the reference and then I traced over it with like a color that light in between. And I think it actually worked out pretty well. Also, this was very time intensive, but very satisfying to do. Almost felt like as relaxing as a diamond painting, though in this case I did cure the separate colors. Now for the background, I decided to use a very, very liquid resin, and I forgot the dye when I poured it the first time, but that's totally fine. The second time I added it, just a little bit of mica powder. I did have some spots in there, because apparently it didn't mix that well, but that is totally okay. They are only on the back side, like just a little bit of clumping of the mica powder. At this point I was actually working with this resin for quite a bit, and although it has like an 8-hour working window, I could feel that it definitely like was getting a bit warm, so I was worried that it might flash cure, even though it's like a thick pour resin, which it didn't. I just wanted to speed this up a little bit so it wouldn't. Also, you could see that I poured this at the same time as I did the little diorama. But yeah, for the next one I actually went with a very smaller charm. And this one has hexagonal infill, and fitting to that I wanted to add a letter B. Again, I have my reference on the side, but this time I didn't tape it down because the holes were so small that every time I laid it on top I couldn't really see the color differences, so I just used it as the reference on the side, which made it a bit more difficult because that meant I had to count, but in the end I think it worked out really well, and also this was so satisfying to do again. Since the holes are a bit smaller and a bit more rounded, it was actually a bit easier to like keep the larger air bubbles out, but the smaller ones just didn't want to be removed at all. Again, I think with a thin-tipped syringe, if you have the colors in there, it would work better. But yeah, again, I couldn't find mine. For this one, I basically just free-handed whatever. I added like a little branch on top, a little leaf on the side for the letter B, and the letter B is also going towards a flower. And I went with like a chunky bee design. Maybe it's actually not a bee. Maybe it's a bumblebee or something. Just something very cute and fluffy. Let's just go with it's a bumblebee. So yeah, all I'm doing is I'm mixing up UV resin, and in this case I'm actually just using the mat to mix it. Once I lay it in the sun a little bit, I can just peel it off. And here's the outcome. I lost the footage of me peeling up the backing and adding the clear varnish on the back for like the larger one, but it's the same as this one. I just peeled off all of the layers and then I just added the varnish on the back. This is just some acrylic based high gloss varnish. And to finish it off, I of course want to hang it up. Now you can go as fancy here as you want, like you can add some strings on the bottom, maybe like make a Suncatcher style or something. I just went with some simple strings because I think the designs should shine themselves, so I used my Dremel here and I added some string and some tiny beads just to accentuate and like help blend in the strings here a bit. I didn't have like a light green or dark green ribbon, so I used a light yellow one, but I still think it fits really well with the bird, and to break it up I used like these darker green beads, and then for the smaller one I added some like of these flower beads. They're a bit too small from the hole, but in the end it worked out really well. And here you can see them in the sun. Now I needed to blur out the background quite a bit to not show my location, so I cannot really show the string design. But as you can see, when the sunlight shines through these, you can really see all of the colors. I don't know why the bottom color of the bird turned green. It's actually like a brownish yellow tone. But it's honestly, I think it still fits really well. You can definitely see a lot of the air bubbles, but I think overall, with like regards to how the entire picture looks, I think it still looks super, super cute, and you can definitely see that it is a robin. Maybe I should have added like a floor, like a branch or something, to like have the feet not floating in the air. But overall, I'm super, super happy. As for the bee, that is just super adorable. I love it. I love how simple it is, but yet how many details I still could put in it. I guess there's so many different infill patterns you can make, like any kind of design with like any kind of shape that you have as infill pattern that you want, and really do some nice pixel art with it. And as I said, it was very meditative to fill in every single gap with the toothpick, or I guess if you can, with a syringe. And I had a lot of fun creating these, and yeah, again, very simple little project for the 3D printer. You don't need to have any modeling experience at all. You can just go into your slicer and make these and then pour some resin in them. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of this project, and which one do you like more, the robin or the little bee? I'm a bit biased. I love the little bee just a tiny bit more. I guess it's just a variation of color. But I'm honestly super happy with both of them, and I'm just happy to be able to hang them on my window with all these cute designs. And also, if you would make one of these, which kind of infill pattern would you choose, and which kind of pixel art would you go with? Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you all have a great day. See you next time. Bye bye!